It's no different than bringing your car to a mechanic and saying, it won't start. And the mechanics, you need new plugs, you need a new head cylinder, but then you realize all you needed was gas. So a lot of what I think about in terms of the way you framed it, it is start with a problem.
GTM AI Podcast with Jonathan and Coach K, where you get the latest with AI and GTM today. GTM.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It is I, Jonathan Kvarfordt, aka Coach K, and this is the GTM AI Podcast. I am thrilled and excited to have the man, the myth, the legend, who I've actually heard a lot about. I've seen your videos and I've heard your podcast as a guest, and I'm just super excited to have you, Mr. Navin Persaud, the VP of Rev Ops at 1Password. Super excited to have you. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jonathan. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate it. I love to dig in and kind of obviously tell a bit more about you, and I want to pick your brain on AI and RevOps because I think you're a unique voice in the space just because of both your strategic and tactical brain that you think, which I love. Before we get into that, help the audience know about you. What's been your journey like? How'd you get to 1Password now? And just what your focus is right now.
Yeah, pretty simple. Coming out of university, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I took a part-time or temporary job at a small company called IBM. And then life got up and I decided I didn't want to be a lawyer and I wanted a career there in tech. I learned so much. The biggest takeaway for me out of IBM after 15 years was selling is hard. And I don't want any part of having that pressure of selling. But what I do really enjoy is the data behind it. How do we make selling better? How do you support that sale? And a big thing for me is I'm a huge hockey fan. I like to basically say, I am not your goal scorer. I'm the person who's creating that first, second assist. And that's where I get a lot of credit and pride from.
I love that. I think it takes both a unique mind to be able to understand the systems and also be okay with not being the shooter, because in my opinion, I came from the football world where I was a linebacker. So I was not the guy running the play in the end zone. I was one making the space for the guy to make the space in the end zone, And there's, in a team sport like sales is, you have to have, each part to make a win, not just one person doing the score. So I love that thought. 1Password, you and I have a little bit different, I don't know if relationship is the right word, but connection, only because obviously I'm the head of growth at Momentum and 1Password is a customer of Momentum. And you've done a lot of me as the head of growth, having some customer stories like yourself is awesome, which we'll get into Momentum, but I want to get more into AI in general and just how you're thinking around RevOps and how do you determine where you put AI in, what you don't put AI in. Like, just kind of give me a lay of your land of your thinking behind when does AI come in mind with RevOps, when you're like, I'm not going to have AI touch this. Like, where do you kind of place things at right now?
Like, absolutely the buzzword. And I think the thing that has brought RevOps front and center in a lot of conversations lately, I think I get at least 3 in-mails a week where someone wants to demo their, AI-enabled solution because it's a great fit for RevOps. I'm still of the mindset, though, that the problem becomes before the tech. The tech will help me solve that problem, but I need to define that problem first. So that's thing one. Thing two, AI is fascinating. I will say that I use it almost daily. And the way I use it helps augment what I'm already doing. And I think in some areas, it can potentially look to replace or eliminate a lot of really tedious work. Or the big advantage for me is like I roll 8 or 9 hours a day back to backs. And if there's a way that I can get a very simple, easy to digest version of what's happening in an area that I want to understand, and AI can do that for me, sign me up. I'm there. So if it's going to make my day easier, if it's going to make the selling process easier for the sellers I support, or if it's going to deliver us insight that we can't gather at scale quickly and readily, then I'm all for it. I'm in.
Yeah. Do you feel like most people, like, I don't know about you, but I was telling someone the other day, I counted the last 18 months, I've seen 530 some odd, like literally 500 different texts because I'm a nerd and had time for it. And I'm a glutton for punishment, but like, I feel like a lot of times it's very rare when you have a RevOps expert who then becomes an AI founder to roll out something. So they don't quite know the pains or the problems, or they're a tech person saying, hey, AI role play is a cool thing. We should make an AI role play. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes people who do technologies don't understand the problems that people are facing, So even though the technology is there and does really cool things, the actual problem is not being justified. So how do you know when you found, let me ask you a different way, actually. How do you go about understanding which problem is the thing you should even use AI for, like for an ROI perspective or a use case? Like, how do you kind of categorize and prioritize the problems?
I'll start with leading with empathy. And the reason I say that is because while I was at IBM, I carried a bag and I had a quota and I tried to sell. And I quickly realized after a year or two, this is hard. I'm not cut out for that. But having that experience grounded me into the world of RevOps so that I'm not here to build perfect systems. I'm here to move the business forward. And I need the systems to do that for our selling audience. And if I'm not doing that and I'm building like a great castle for RevOps, then I'm failing. And I think a lot of companies bring out these new products, don't lead with empathy. They don't realize here's the pain I'm trying to solving and how I'm going to move that business forward. It's not about servicing RevOps. RevOps is a cog in the wheel of driving the SaaS business. So you have to then think about how are you going to move that business forward? And then how are you going to enable RevOps to do that? And if you don't operate with that mindset, you are probably destined to fail.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I just released this last week a 7-step strategy guide on how to think about AI implementation from Momentum. But it's the same thing I've used in the academy. It's the same, it's just my thinking, which is more about the end in mind. Like for me, and I'd love to get your take on this. I like to focus on when someone comes into me and they say, hey, what AI tech I should buy? I always tell them that is the wrong answer to start with. And even though I want to tell you Momentum, I'm not, because I don't know if that's a tech that's going to solve your problems based on priority, So I always start with saying, you should have a business goal, a business strategy, and AI inside of the business strategy. So for example, if you're trying to have your revenue go from 50 million to 60 million, you have a 10 million gap. Where's your sales velocity metrics at? Where's your gap at? Where's the problems at? And of those problems, which one's the one that'll make the most difference on the levers to get you to the goal? And then you can see AI tech that would fit that. But a lot of people don't think that way. They think, oh, cool, this AI tech does this AI SDR thing that can build me more pipeline. I'm like, but is that your problem? Maybe your problem is in the sales process because you're leaking like crazy. I guess I find that people sometimes, it's easy to do because there's so much noise and things going around that they don't always focus on the most important things. So I'm curious on how you think about it. Number one, do you think my theory is crazy? I like to give your critique on it. Is it wise, or what do you think?
It's no different than bringing your car to a mechanic and saying it won't start. And the mechanics need new plugs, you need a new head cylinder, but then you realize all you needed was gas. So a lot of what I think about in terms of the way you framed it, it is start with a problem, start small. That's the other thing too, right? AI is such how do I explain this in the best way? I've used it a few times, and it's one of the ways I used to explain Momentum. It's a bit of the Netflix effect. And what I call that is Friday on the couch with the family, we open up all of our subscriptions and we're like, what should we watch? We know we want to watch a movie, but it takes us an hour to figure that out. And the reason I use that in explaining Momentum is it can do a hell of a lot of things for your business. But it's best when you know what are those things that you want to go and solve first. And then you point the power of the platform towards those problems. Otherwise, you will have a bit of that Netflix effect. And there are a lot of AI vendors out there that claim to do this, claim to do that. There are a lot of established vendors who are like sprinkling AI into what they already do and not really doing it well, or not doing it in the way that was originally intended. And really, it's just like fancy wrapping on like old tech.
Yeah, I find that with a lot of legacy tech, and I won't name any names because I actually have a lot of respect for a lot of legacy tech vendors, but I feel like they just added a little bit of AI to, like you said, sprinkle it so they could say they have AI. And then when you get in and actually play, you're like, this is like not that good. It's sadly because the technology wasn't built for AI infrastructure. Like it was built for a CRM or for a video library or whatever the case was. It wasn't built to be this nuanced, native, flexible platform, which is a different world that we're in right now, which is kind of crazy. So for you, like, what do you, and again, if you say Momentum, that's great, but full transparency, the AI tech that's making the biggest difference for you right now, what are those use cases? And what kind of, I don't know if ROI is the right thing, but what kind of results are you seeing as a result that you'd say, I would never go back to the old way of non-AI way of doing this?
I mean, we're a security company, so our approach to leveraging AI tech is quite limited, although my appetite for exploring is quite large. But right
Yeah.
now it's momentum. Yeah, hands down, it is absolutely momentum. And I think back to a couple of years ago when we started and, Santi first showed me the product. I was like, wait a minute, you actually use this as a customer 1Password and showed me how our sellers were performing with you. It blew my mind. That was like the, mic drop moment. And now I look back on that time and I think about all of the insight we were able to collect, how we're able to pivot quickly and grab sentiment of our customers with product feedback, or just generally understand how our sales reps are doing, where there are opportunities for coaching.
Yeah.
Or for me on a daily use case, which is understanding our forecast and what's actually happening in those deals and whether, I can believe what I'm seeing in terms of like how they're lining up versus what's actually happening. These are all like hidden mysteries to me in the past, which are now like readily available and readily exposed. And it's that, I would say, visibility or transparency that it creates in our business is what
Yeah.
gives us the opportunity to pivot when we need to. Because if you've got the blinders on and you learn about things too late, the one enemy I say in a sales year, and there are many, is time. And you really need to understand what's not working quickly and pivot quickly.
Yeah. You tapped on something that earlier, which you said that you're a security company, so your options are small. I know it may seem pretty obvious, but I'm curious because obviously 1Password has the reputation of being an incredibly secure, safe company. What is the limitations? Like when you're looking at, is it just the SOC 2? Is it other things? Like what do you look for from a security point of view, governance? You're like, okay, this tech will work, this doesn't. Like, why is that so? You can't
I
find more
think,
tech that fits.
I think the big one is that we're a private company, we're a security company,
Right.
and a lot of what is consumed, unless you like make it really clear, is used to train the AI. And I think, we would like, or we would prefer positions where it's our data and it remains our data and it doesn't actually, leave that environment. And that's
Yeah.
where it's most useful for us and us alone.
I'm guessing because this is something that so I have this security guy internally with Momentum that he didn't hear about this concept until he came to Momentum. And we have what's called the zero retention data policy with OpenAI, which means that no data passes through from Momentum into OpenAI servers at any level for any reason. And I've also found out that it's not something that's common. Like I thought it was a common API agreement, and it's not. It's not something people get. So is it the case that most vendors who come to you either don't have some sort of agreement like that or something, and that's the main clincher? It's not the SOC 2 thing, it's more that? Or is it kind of both sides?
It's both sides. Vendors will go through pretty rigorous testing and evaluation before they're incorporated in our stack. But both
Yeah.
of those two elements are super important. And I think a lot of companies may, float around with the SOC 2 badge, but it's those companies that have bolted on AI to their platform, but not actually
Yeah.
gone through and done the right diligence to help you protect your data. And I think that's a big area of concern.
So when you think about, and I'm just curious of where you're at with RevOps with this, because like the world of, I don't know if democratizing AI agents is the right concept, but there's a lot of platforms you can do a lot of cool stuff with AI. So is there a world where you see yourself creating internal AI agents doing whatever it is you need to be done, and that you have that some sort of thing where you build a lot of this internally? Or where's the point where you're thinking, I'm just going to get a tech that fits this criteria versus I'm going to build it because now it's easier to build than ever? Like, how do you think about that?
I think there's a happy medium. I don't know that I'm in the world where I'm going to go build something, but for
Yeah.
example, there's a vendor out there that, is kind of like Play-Doh, but I won't say their name. And they basically, they showed me some things and I was like, wow. But then I had to have a step back moment and I thought to myself, tech is great. Understand the use case, massive. I need a GTM engineer. I need someone on my side,
Yeah.
whether I go and find an agency or in-house knowledge to actually run that. That is
Yeah.
orchestration at a grand level that removes all of the guesswork that I think a lot of our teams waste time on in where to prospect and what pipeline to go and work, what accounts, et cetera. It automates a lot of that and it does so pretty efficiently. But you've got to have the in-house talent or farm that out, put that in place. So tech is one thing, but then you need that go-to-market knowledge, and most of it always lives in a RevOps function to be able to run those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
companies that are pitching AI platforms that touch RevOps understand the maturity of the RevOps function in that org,
Yeah.
because quickly you'll see that if they're not mature, your time to value may not even exist.
Do you see a world where RevOps transforms into AI ops, or the AI ops falls underneath RevOps? Or, I mean, because I'm seeing more of these like AI system type roles, or like a GTM engineer. Do you feel like sitting underneath the umbrella of RevOps, or how do you feel like that's going to be shifting over the next little while?
Wow. I'm not sure if I see that during the time when I'm working, but I would
That's
have to right now, it looks like an opportunity to augment in a few areas rather than being like its own standalone type of functional area, whether it be simplifying the way in which we extract data and insights from our business,
yeah,
whether it serves as like a guidepost and a QBR to help us understand where we should be doing better. I think right now it doesn't have the maturity only because like people don't have the maturity and where to leverage it. One, or there's trepidation on moving forward. Two, or data and process is relatively disconnected in a lot of orgs that unless you reach that level of maturity, the AI is not going to function well or give you the right type of results.
yeah. I found a lot of times with various different AI technologies that sometimes I got a moment to be a good example where if you had a scattered and undocumented unknown sales process, it'd be difficult for the AI to come in and automatically fix that because it's not a sales process creator, it's a sales process follower, or I should say automation. And I think a lot of people skip over that because there's a lot of power behind a defined process, defined data, what's working off, what's the function it's going to be inside of. And I'm seeing a lot more that AI is unveiling this weakness within teams that they didn't have it documented. They don't have it fine tuned. They're like, we don't know. And then the AI doesn't function. And sadly, sometimes like, the AI gets crucified, but I'm like, it's not the AI's problem. This is a deeper issue, you know? Do you feel like it's the same way?
Absolutely. I think your business needs guardrails. It needs process. It needs sort of to feed the AI with a baseline of here's bad. Help me navigate towards the good, knowing that these are your left and right boundaries. And a lot of businesses don't have those boundaries set up because they don't have a process maturity. They don't have a sales methodology. So the AI is going to struggle because it's trying to understand how to get to good from what, and what being an unknown.
Yeah. So I have two more themes of questions. One selfishly is going to be about momentum, but more about the AI side. But this first one is for those RevOps people who are listening, RevOps enablement, et cetera, in that zone, someone like yourself, what do you feel like what most people miss? And then what would be the thing you'd say you need to double down on right now? What would that be?
In terms of just AI tech and what they miss.
Not necessarily. I mean, you could say tech, but either mindset or just how to think about or execute on AI in general right now, if they haven't already, or what people miss when they come talk to you and say, "Hey, what do you do with AI?" And most people miss this concept or theme.
Yeah, I think people miss the golden rule, which is what are the problems you're trying to solve, and is that urgent and important, right? Sometimes things are important, not urgent, and they try and solve it with tech before they actually diagnose it. Again, bringing your car to the mechanic, not realizing the tank was empty.
Right.
So that would be thing one. I think thing two is like RevOps is there because there's a go-to-market function that you support, and there's a SaaS business you're trying to grow. It's not the other way around, right? Those aren't the reasons why RevOps exist. So the reality is you really need to understand where are the blind spots in your business and how can AI illuminate them for you, bring them into the light so then you can understand the best ways to go and solve them. Maybe all AI does, like for example, for momentum for me is help me understand product feedback at scale. Or maybe it tells me that reps need more enablement or without following a sales process. That's great. Maybe that's all I needed to do because then now I know what my problems are. And when you're not bringing those things into the light, you're letting them fester. And then as companies scale and grow, they just make them worse.
Okay, now I have so many questions now. I could probably talk to you for a while about this stuff. So going back to the problem first, when you have people reach out to you via, in mails and you have all these 2 or 3 things a day, like what I'm asking this because I have a lot of AI vendors and they sell to the VP of Rev Ops, VP of Sales, and they ask these questions. What is the thing that catches your eye besides saying that you can see that the human actually took a second to look at you as a human being? Besides that, what are the things you look for to resonate with you from the problem statement?
I almost dislike disclosing this to you, but I read all those pitches and I go to their websites just to look around. I
Yeah.
can't get I reply to everyone, but I do go
Yeah.
and look. because there's the odd time you see something. And like last week, I took a demo. It came up on my LinkedIn feed. A few other people liked it. I was like, wow. And I was up front and I said, hey, I'm not looking to buy anything right now. You came up in my feed. I want to learn more. I'm going to park that. And the vendor was cool with that approach. So really it's around what is it that you're going to solve that's a pain for me right now, or for RevOps professionals in general, or in our industry. If you can help compartmentalize that in a few sentences, and then when I land on your website, I can find that pretty easily, I'm more inclined to think about taking that meeting. But if I'm lost on your website because it's to be built and your message doesn't resonate with the problem that's front and center with me today,
Yeah.
probably won't reply to you.
Yeah. It's a good call. I appreciate that, which is funny because as a marketer, I know the pains and problems that goes into making sure that's all aligned, but it's absolutely crucial. So I love it. All right. So if you don't mind indulging me, I'm going to take 10 minutes of our last time together and we're going to dive into momentum, if that's okay.
Sure.
So without me pitching you up, how would you describe momentum?
First of all, I got to say that the team of people behind the product are great. I love working with companies of that size, and I know they're growing because they're willing to take customer feedback. They're willing to go and make that happen in the product. There are a lot of vendors in my stack. Some operate that way, many don't. And as a result, you get what you paid for. With momentum, we get great value. Obviously, we understand our sales conversations from it. We have product feedback from it. We have overall business sentiment from it. All these things are happening at scale by like really scouring all those conversations we're having with customers. It's like having eyes and ears across the business without having to be in all those conversations. I almost liken it to, way back when I heard when people send Obama emails, they would have to follow this structure, like a very clear heading, a very clear TLDR. And then if he wanted to know more, he could go and scroll down. But the most times he didn't get past the subject line or the TLDR. And I feel like momentum does a lot for me. And that gives me that layer of understanding that if I want to dive deep, the pool is there. But if I don't feel like going in, I can just look around.
Well, I love it. So I'm going to actually tee you up because I want to hear some examples if you don't mind. So I was a customer momentum about the same time you guys came on, I think a couple of years ago. And then obviously I became an advisor and consultant, and here I am working for him, which has been fun. And I like to describe momentum in three ways, or I should say three main pillars of value. One is data. So be able to aggregate, extract, send it, input it, output it, wherever you want to go. So democratize the data. Second is communication, so that who needs to know what by when and how can be done quickly without having to wait for a meeting or a person to do it. And then three is automation or orchestration, so that there's things in the process that can be automated to help speed up the internal processes so you don't let that get in the way of your sales cycle or your buyer's journey. So first thing, is that resonate? Does that make sense to you? Would you agree, or am I off my marker?
No, I definitely
Good.
agree. Three being the most important for me. And the analogy or the sentiment I'll share, and I was literally thinking about this when my eyes opened this morning, was I thought to myself, like, I'm going to go in today, and one of my mental notes was look at our biggest deals in the quarter and understand hygiene from those deals. And like literally go at each of the reps and the managers and say, hey, these things don't look kosher. And if I get pushback, great. That means there's friction and that the deal should come in that period. But if
Right.
moving things out, that's okay. Navin, turn on the lights and everyone's scattered. But I realized from that is the best reps are the ones I never talk to. They reach out to me when there's a problem somewhere in the stack or the data and the forecast, but I don't talk to them because they've caught on. They are leveraging their conversational intelligence. They're leveraging momentum to understand, here are all the shortcuts to keep the rest of the business aware, but away from what I need to do and get done.
Aware but away. I love that so much. I might have to steal that. Aware and away. Then what, from an AI perspective, and of course, this is going to be momentum again, a very selfish question. What are the use cases you feel like for you? I think there's, actually, I'm going to back up a second. I feel like there's three levels of value in general with any company. There's operational, tactical, and strategic. So operational is just what does it do for the frontline person? Tactic is more like, the mid-level management, what's going on kind of between teams, and strategic is obviously board level. I would love to hear more because I know that it's easy to go off of the operational time savings and that kind of stuff for the reps, which is incredible. But more tactical or strategic, what is the value you're gleaning from momentum or AI running on your calls that gives you the benefits from a higher level?
So 1Password purchased two companies, and maybe the last 13, 14 months.
Yep.
And we've been able to leverage momentum to quickly grab product feedback, right? New company, you're folding it in, you're launching your products. Pretty easily, you're going to want to understand how the reps are pitching them, what the customers are saying about them, what your competition is, and what those challenges are that you can quickly go and re-enable and pivot while you have time to do it and learn. And not just learn within the sales org, learn in the product org. People are actually positioning and marketing these things, learning engineering so that they can actually hear and see what customers are saying. Super powerful stuff, right? And to have to do that at scale, immensely powerful for the business. Coaching is a big one, right? We are deploying MedPick as a sales methodology, really deal qualification framework. And
Yeah.
we're going to need to understand if everyone's bought in, right? Are people asking the right questions? For me, and when I frame this to reps, I'm thinking about forget trying to be the one doing the most of the talking with your customers. Just ask the right questions and let it rip. Let them go. And know that you've got, momentum running in the background with pre-programmed prompts to give you that analysis after the call, fill in some data points on the field. So you can just spend time with eye contact rather than like quickly trying to figure out and type things and like speaking to speak. You can actually speak to listen.
Yeah, I think that's something that's so powerful because so many times that concept gets lost, and then I had the same aha once when I was using momentum before, was I told one of my talkers, I was like, I promise you, if you let them talk more, you're going to love your life so much better. So I just challenged it, one call. Your challenge is to let the customer talk more than you do. And the stuff we got out of it as a result was like so rich. This is amazing. And it totally shifted how he sold because before it was just data on him speaking. I'm like, we don't want your data. We want their data. I get it now. So it's kind of funny. I'm going to ask one more question. I'll let you go. What are you excited about? And not necessarily with momentum, but what do you hope come down the pipe for RevOps specifically with AI? What are the things you're geeking out about, you're excited about, or you hope will happen in the next year?
I think there's an opportunity or a convergence on like data enrichment for a big one for me. We use a few different vendors all to do very similar things. I'd love to see some consolidation in that space powered by AI. I think every one of these vendors says they're better than the other, but the reality is I think there's a set of baseline that should be less costly, but more able to be accessible at scale. There's a lot of data in the public domain, but it's difficult to extract it.
Yeah.
That can serve marketers well, that can serve, lead gen teams well, and RevOps teams. We're always being asked, what's our ICP? What industries are we in? What is our segmentation? And it's a lot of analysis to say, here's where we are now, and here's where we think the sweet spot is. AI should solve for all of those things.
So I'm hearing like there's there could be a lot of first party data, second, third party data, somewhere you can put it together in a way that's easily consumable. I know we're not there yet, but I feel like we're close. I just feel like it's just right around the corner, which I would love that world too. As a marketer, I would love that world than nothing else, just get some fine tune on that. It would be awesome. Navin, I just want to tell you again, thank you so much for this and for letting me ask some selfish questions, but genuinely speaking, I can tell you from knowing several RevOps people, you're someone who's respected in the space. And I just love and appreciate what you do for us. And just want to tell you thank you for coming on and hanging out with me for a second. So thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
GTM AI Podcast with Jonathan and Coach K, where you get the latest with AI and GTM today. GTM AI Podcast with Jonathan and Coach K.